Hi everyone, thank you for joining in. My name is Kim Frank and I have Victor Torres from our team with me today here, and we're going to talk a little bit about using the OneLearn platform from start to finish. So if you've been attending any of the other webcasts that we've been doing, you've seen a lot of features in our Lab on Demand platform. You've seen a lot of features about how to build content. What we're going to be focusing on here in the next hour is really some of the ways that we can deliver that content to the customers. How do we actually go in and schedule classes? How do we provide content on demand? So we're going to take a look at what we call our TMS system, a training management system, which is essentially our LMS for managing not just classes, but also instructors, training vouchers, all the various features. So quite a lot of content to cover here in the next hour. So I want to just talk a little bit about the platform as a high-level overview. So we're really looking at three different types of services or platforms that we are providing. We have our Lab on Demand platform. If any of you have been attending any of our Lab on Demand sessions, you've seen a lot of these sessions around integrated digital labs, our studio, how to create content, performance-based testing, our Cyber range, which is a really cool new shared lab environment feature. Lab on Demand is used for developing all of that content. It's also used for companies to actually create software demonstrations that can be integrated directly into their website as well. Then we have our training management system, which is really what we're going to be focusing on over the next hour here. The training management system is a huge system. There are a lot of features, functionalities, and options in this platform. We're going to be looking at some of those features, and I'm really going to focus on some of the new features that we've been implementing recently around user management. We're going to talk about class management, instructors. We're going to talk a little bit about virtual classroom management. We're going to look at how to actually use this platform to deliver content on demand as well. So not just through the traditional scheduling of classes. Not sure if any of you were attending one of our previous webcasts of event services. We have a whole section that's really dealing with delivering labs to large-scale events. So one of those events is something like the Microsoft Ignite conference, where we're setting up like 500 computers. Attendees can sit down. They can access any of those labs at any time during the event, and they can also continue to access those labs after the event. There's a lot of things going into that type of planning, so we actually have a webcast on that. So if you haven't seen it, check it out from our website, where you'll be able to find all of that information. But what I really want to spend some time on here is the training management system. And this training management system is used to manage your entire training environment from start to finish. You can manage instructors, you can manage their schedules, you can manage their certifications, you manage, of course, all your classes, where they're delivered, what type of classes are you delivering. Is it physical? Is it virtual? We, of course, have all the schedules. And then, most importantly, we have all the metrics around that as well. So who attended what classes? How much time did they spend on labs? Did they complete all their labs? We can build in assessments to this, surveys. So there's a lot of features inside of this platform as well. The other thing that the platform is used to is on-demand access. So a user might want to set up subscriptions for your customers so they can go access content on demand at any time. This could be subscription-based, it could be pay-as-you-go, so there's a lot of different options there as well. So I think we have some really cool features to show you over the next 45 minutes to an hour. So stay tuned here. So one of the first things I really wanted to point out is just the OneLearn experience. It's one of those things that is constantly evolving. Traditionally, when you've been accessing our platform, you've been locking on with your Learn On Demand Systems account that has actually been created within your organization. Today, that's still the most common way of locking on when it comes to actually managing your environment and everything. But the platform actually does support a lot of different types of lock-ons, particularly useful for students. It could be that you're locking on with a corporate account. So AAD is your Active Directory integrated accounts. It could be a Google account. It could be your Microsoft Live account. So there's really a lot of options to locking on, and you'll see a little bit later on how that actually affects the user experience, and also how it affects how you're creating classes, how you're enrolling students into those classes as well.
So as far as that, if you decide to use, is this customizable?
Yeah, so absolutely. On this slide deck here, and let me actually just switch over and show you the real lock-on page here. So in our system, we actually have a lot of different looks and feels that can be customized. I just pulled up a couple of different ones here. This is sort of the more traditional, the basic look and feel of what we have. You're locking on with a username, password. Everybody is being provisioned that information up front. So here's your username, here's your password to log on to the platform with. We can take it a little bit step further, and we can add additional features to this screen. So yeah, you can log on with your traditional username, password, but you actually also have the option to log on. In this case, if I scroll down a little bit, you actually have the option to log on with your Microsoft account as well.
Okay.
Now, if somebody just decides to log on with the Microsoft account, they have not been provisioned any access of any way. What they're really just doing is accessing a blank page. So it's not like I can just go log on with my account here and I see everything that this company is providing. That's not the case.
So in essence, they need to be provided a role or permissions, right?
Exactly.
In order to be able to access what they need.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So they still need to be given that permission on top of it. So all we have here is the access. Another interesting option that's actually on the slide here is register with a training key. So traditionally, the way that classes are managed today is that somebody will go in and schedule a class. You will then go into that class, and then you will start enrolling your students. And then those students will get a username, password. They will log on with that, and they can access the training materials, the course that they're attending. The other option is to have them register with a training key. So we're going to go schedule a class. We're going to say, I'm going to have 20 students in this class, but I'm not going to spend the time adding all 20 students to this. We're going to give the instructor a training key. The instructor is sharing that with the students. The students log on, they type the training key, and now they're enrolled in the class. So they can log on, in this case here, with their Microsoft account. They could log on with their Lab on Demand Systems account, or they could create a new account as well. So it is really totally customizable how we are setting up these web pages here. The one that you were just referring to that we saw on the slide is what I call the modern look and feel. And again, it's a customizable web page. I put a picture on this one. I didn't really put a lot of text on it. And then there is the sign-in option. And yeah, when I click the sign-in option, it gives me multiple choices.
Right.
Those choices are customizable. If I don't want people to use Live IDs or Google, we could remove those from the list.
Okay.
So again, totally customizable. So really a lot of great options there that can save us time in some cases when we are managing a lot of classes, a lot of students as well. Now, for the administration itself, I'm actually going to go back and I'm going to log on as one of my demo accounts here. And who we are actually, oops, was not the right name. Let's try that again. There we go. So I just logged on as Oscar, and Oscar is really an operations manager. So he has a lot of permissions within this system here. He can schedule classes, he can manage instructors, users, all the classrooms, etc. So there's a lot of features in here. Some features you might use more than others. Maybe I'm using, I already have my classes as the first one, but after that I'm actually using users quite a lot. So you can actually move these tiles around. So as I'm scrolling down the page, I'm actually going to see the things that I'm using less frequently. So that might be setting up credit pools, setting up notes, virtual meetings, etc. So
So the tiles that are being viewed right now would be based on what role that user has when he logs in. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
So if he just has a student role, then that person's probably not going to be able to see all of those tiles.
No,
or have access to those things, right?
Students would see something totally different. Instructors would see something totally different. So it is really role-based. There might be people that can see courses but not create courses.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of permissions that can be customized around that. And we have added some great new features as well. If I just go in here, now that I'm logged on, I'm going to go in and create a class. And in this case here, what I actually have is sort of a basic view of creating a class. If we just go down through this list here, I'm actually going to select a course. I'm just going to pick a random course from my list here. I can give it a description, put in what time zone it's in. We have different statuses we can use. And here's this thing that I mentioned is the training key. And it's enabled in my case here, so I actually see that training key. So this is the key that the system generates that belongs to this class. Anybody who has this key or it's shared with have the option to log on and actually essentially auto-enroll or self-enroll into this class here. There is a limit right now that says maximum 20 students. So once that number is reached, no more will actually be able to enroll. Just going to move down here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and schedule this class as well. So I'm going to pick April 24 here is when I'm going to go schedule this class.
We've got a guest asking a question saying, can we override that key and create our own?
You can overwrite that key and create your own. So there's a couple of things here. If you do that, the way that our keys are generated, and if we just go back and look at it, it's a mix of letters and numbers. Don't make your keys too easy if you start overriding it. If I call this class 101, and you sharing that with somebody, they're probably going to guess that the next key you're going to use is class 102, 103, 104. So using these generated keys, just make sure that they are unique within the system, and they're not just a key that somebody could easily guess and then attend your class. But yes, you can absolutely go in and create your own keys. In terms of delivery, in this case here, I can go in and add a classroom. So I'm going to go in and pick that I want to run this in my classroom. What do we have here? Toronto. We have a classroom in Toronto. And you'll notice the capacity in the classrooms here. It's actually set up so when you're scheduling a class, it will actually make sure that you can't just enroll 20 people into a class where it says that it only seats 16. So the system will actually warn you about that. I'm going to do the full classroom for now. I have another field down here, which is normally not there. It's actually something we're going to talk about just a little bit later on, but it's one of the new features is actually creating custom fields as well. So I'm just going to leave that for now, but I will come back to that field as well. I'm going to add my instructor. So in this case here, what we're really looking at is that the instructor who is certified to teach this course, and it's actually telling me that we have Brian, instructor here, who is available during that time. The system would go in and start looking at if Brian is busy. So if he's already teaching a class that week, it would actually go in and say, okay, warn you, Brian is already teaching a class. So it's tracking that as well. You can add multiple instructors in here. So you have different roles that you can actually give them as an instructor, auditing instructor, Go Teach instructor. So there's different options for the type of instructors that can be added. And apparently I forgot to hit OK for my sessions here. So I'm scheduling for the 24, Monday through Friday, from 8 to 5 p.m. So now I've created this class here. Now I want to go back and just talk about that custom field that I just showed. So one of the questions that we've got a lot is, can we add additional fields if there is something that we want to ask or we want to track during this class? And that is now an option. Mm-hmm. Before that, I also just want to point out, you notice that I don't have very many options here. And that is because we do have this advanced settings in the upper right corner. So if I click on that, now I'm getting all these additional options we might be using, such as student surveys, instructor surveys, whether we want to disable the labs, etc., allow the self-enrollment to the courses. So all of those features that we don't use very often is actually hidden by default. But I can still go access those features simply by selecting Show Advanced Settings. But back to these custom fields here, because that's actually one of my favorite features, but also one of the ones we have to be a little bit careful about. So yes, we can collect additional information while we are scheduling a class. So the way that it really works is, if I go back, you'll see I have this option to create a custom class, class custom field. And from in here, we have the option to go say, I want to create a custom field. Need to come up with something to create. Maybe we are delivering classes in different languages. So I'm going to go in and put in one here called delivery language. I can put in a description, I can put in a tooltip, and that will actually show up when you're scheduling the classes just yet. We have different options. Is it a text box? Is it a drop-down menu? Is it a checkbox? Is it a number? Are we selecting a user, or is it a selection list? In my case, if I go in and say it's a selection list, the next step is really, where do I want to see it on the form? Do I want to see it up in the basic information? Do I want to see it down in the instructor, delivery location, etc.? I'm just going to leave it in the basic information, and now it's time to actually go back and do the choices. So in here, I'm just going to add a couple of choices. English, we are going to create another one. Oops, go back one. Where are we? Here we go. There's my choice. I'm going to add another choice for French, Spanish. So I'm going to go in and add those languages. We also have the option of user role restriction. Who is able to fill out this field? Who should be able to see it? Who should be able to modify it? So this is another great thing that we can actually do, because maybe the person who is scheduling should be able to edit it, but maybe the person who is viewing it should not be able to do that. So if I go back to my main list here of all the fields, custom fields, you'll see that I have now created this one called delivery language. Earlier on, I created one called class coordinator. Maybe every class needs a coordinator, and that person is responsible for doing different things. I'm gonna go in here, and I just want to edit it just to show you what we actually did. In this case here, the field is actually tied to a user role. So I just picked the operations managers, but maybe we have classroom administrators, and they're the one who gets here. Now, why did we want a field like that? Well, maybe we want the system to automatically send them an email every time something is scheduled, or every time something is changed, they get notified. So we do have the option to actually take something like this field here and actually associate notifications with it. When a class is scheduled, they get a notification. So there's really a lot of great choices around all of these different fields. So if I just go in and create my class now, I'm going to let me actually just pick the same course as before. I'm going to go schedule it. You can see now it actually gives me, I didn't pick a drop-down menu. It could have been a drop-down menu. In my case, I actually put in checkboxes. So maybe the person does, maybe it is delivered in multiple languages, but probably not. It should have been a drop-down menu. I can go back and adjust that, because we're only delivering the session in one particular language. The one I referred to before was down under my delivery, and that was the classroom coordinator. Who is actually responsible for this class?
Right.
So we can go in and actually pick that person as well. And again, we have the classroom in here. So we can actually go at the classroom. Now, there are other options in here, physical and virtual. So we do have the option to actually go in and say, I'm going to run a virtual classroom. So we can track whether it's in physical or if it's virtual. And if the organization actually has an Adobe Classroom configuration, then we can actually tie into that. So it actually automatically scheduling those classes in Adobe. All the recordings are taken care of. Those recordings are posted to the student as well. So we're going to take a look at how that actually looks from the student point of view as well. I'm not sure if I actually, did I put in a time slots here yet? Let's go.
Not for this class.
Yeah, so let's just go in, and I'm picking a time here. And there we go. I've now scheduled that class. Now, the last thing I actually want to point out about these custom filters is that when I go in and say find classes, those filters are actually automatically added on the input filters and also as an output option. So if I really want to go see all my classes and the language or the classroom coordinator, then
you can select those as options for your search.
Exactly, yeah. So I can see that I now have 10 events scheduled. It's showing up that one of them is in English, the other one have not. I just created it, so none of them have it. And I can also see that my demo account has been assigned as the classroom coordinator for some of those. So that's another great feature. And these fields can also be made mandatory. Right now, I just set them up as optional, but we have the option to actually say, okay, I want mandatory fields. So
we have somebody asking, is it possible to use a different type of virtual classroom like Skype for Business or WebEx?
So right now, we are only integrating with the Adobe Classroom. We are looking at other options of integrations, but there's a lot of different APIs that have to be in place for actually doing all of that. So it is something that we are actually looking at on a regular basis, but right now it's the Adobe Classroom. And if the organization don't have an Adobe, it will just show up that you can still schedule a virtual class, it just won't create that connection to Adobe. So you still have the option to track whether it's physical or virtual deliveries. Again, I'm just thinking about Skype, because every Skype has a URL for the meeting invite. If you really wanted to do that, you could potentially use a custom field, Skype connection link. So that might be an option of ways to actually track it.
One question about the customized fields. What's the limit to how many custom fields you can have? Or is there a limit?
I don't actually know there is a limit, but it is something we have to be a little bit careful about. We have done some tests with some organizations that has been using the custom fields, and they went a little crazy. They said, we want to track all of these different things. Let's create all of these different custom fields. And whenever they're scheduling a class, there's like 10 or 20 different custom fields. So now their scheduling process takes a lot longer. People who are scheduling it don't always fill out all of those fields.
Right.
So you really want to look at, okay, what do you need? Is it something, and I normally say if you need custom fields like that, majority of them should really be mandatory, because we're using it for tracking, we're using it for filtering.
So the question that needs to be asked is this necessary? Is this custom field necessary?
Exactly, yeah. So what value does it bring? How does it help you improve your processes and makes it easier to manage and track and so forth?
Okay.
So those custom fields are available as both input and output options. Not going to go into too much details about it, but we do have custom fields under users as well. So if you want to track something on the user, we have a lot of fields on users already. If I just go pull up one of our users here, there is a lot of fields on that user. Name, email addresses, job titles, primary phone numbers, etc. But if there is something that we want to track that's not in the list, Do we need a customer ID or whatever it might be? You know, I just went and created all of those classes that where I selected, are they going to be delivered in English, French, Spanish? Well, do we want to know those students we have? Do we want to know what their preferred delivery language is? So we can now start targeting, making sure they're put into the right classes. You know, that could potentially be a custom field that we could put in this scenario here. There's one more thing around scheduling that I actually would like to show you as well. And we have something called custom events. So traditionally, when we're scheduling a class, there is a course associated with that class. So we create a course, then we go schedule it to be delivered. Now, if I'm doing something like let's just say we are doing a customer orientation day, and I actually want to schedule it so I can track who is attending that, etc. Normally, I would have to get a course created, then I could go schedule it, and then access it. We do have this option called custom events. So when I'm creating a custom event, it's the same idea. I go through the form of creating it, but you'll notice that there is no course to actually be selected. So I'm going to create a customer fun day.
So a course is not required to create a custom event?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So I could go in and say here on whatever date at 3 p.m. in the afternoon here, we are going to have 3 hours of something. I could specify, again, where is it delivered. I could put an instructor in. When I don't put in any of this information, it's going to tell us we haven't assigned a classroom to it. But again, I created this custom event, and when I go to my class finder, they do show up on the class finder. So Customer Fun Day is scheduled right there. So I can track that event or activity as the same as I'm tracking all the other classes that we have. So really great stuff there. I could continue to talk for a long time about creating the classes, the features, managing all of these courses. There's a couple of things I do want to point out, particularly around instructors. So if I just go back for a second and I look at my instructors here. So I'm going to find one of my instructors. I'm going to actually just use this Brian guy as an example. You know, we are tracking a lot of information for instructors. Those custom user fields that I was mentioning before, they would also affect instructor accounts. So if there's anything there that we need to look at, need to track for instructors, that would be one way of doing it as well. We do have the instructor calendar in here, of course, so we can see when is the instructor actually teaching. It looks like Brian is not teaching too much in March here, but he's scheduled a few times in April and May and so forth. So we can always go in here. The instructors can go in and look at the schedule. We can look at what is the instructor actually certified to teach. You know, and it's really up to the individual training center to figure out how do they want to manage this. But in this case here, there's a lot of courses that he is ready to teach. And then it actually also is tracking whether he's prepared to deliver it, whether he has attended it. You know, it actually says here that, hey, he is certified to teach this one because he took the Microsoft certification. But at the same time, it also says that he hasn't attended the class, nor has he prepared for it yet. Right. So we can actually track that as well. And when we're scheduling those classes, by default, it only shows those instructors who is certified to teach and who is available to teach on that particular day. We're also managing the instructor blockout times. So we can actually go in and create a blockout here for maybe he's going on vacation. So we put that in, and now it keeps that takes that into consideration as well when we're scheduling classes. So really an excellent way of managing all of those different things. And we can manage classroom surveys, student surveys, instructor surveys. We want instructors to fill out a survey at the end of the class. How did your delivery go? What was bad? What went well? What should we change for next time? Was the room okay? Was the labs okay? So all of this can actually be put into an instructor survey, just like we have student surveys as well. So we can get that feedback from the students of how did their delivery actually go. So lots of good options there. I want to take a few, there's a couple of other things we can do in here: materials management, facility management, some of the more advanced features. But I really wanted to talk a little bit about the student experience and some of the changes that we've done in that area as well. So I'm going to go back. I'm just going to log off, and I'm going to log on as a student. So I'm going to just sign out here. I'm going to log in as my student account here. And Karen here she's actually in a class right now. She is in a software class that's running virtually, and it actually started Monday, March 28th, and it's going on till April 14th.
That's a long class.
So that is a long class. Now, we could go look at classes. Maybe it's only running an hour a day. So that's the other option when we're scheduling those classes. It doesn't have to be 5 consecutive days. It doesn't have to be 8 hours a day.
Right.
It could be that the class is running twice a week for 2 hours. So that would be one of the options why it's a long class. She's also been assigned some courses. So if we are running classes, we have the option to actually give students assignments. So maybe there's some work we want them to do up front. And apparently she hasn't completed any of these assignments yet. But she has the option to go in and start looking at those assignments, walk through all of the different content. And one of the things that you'll probably notice here is that the assignment look and feel is different than the classroom look and feel. When I'm looking at my classroom, we'll see that I have to do an assessment. So we could go in and look at the assessment, answer some questions. That way the instructors can actually go look at this and find out, okay, what is the student's experience level? We could potentially have students log on and do that before the class starts. Then, of course, we have the labs themselves. So there are different types. In this case here, we have many different labs within this. I could go launch one of those labs. I'm going to let that launch there. And this lab actually has a video in it. So this is one of our new IDL type labs. The lab is actually launching in the background while the student is running the video. And once we are finished with the video, we are now inside of the lab. So I'm just going to leave this lab running for now here on the system, because there's a couple of other things I want to point out. So there's a lot of different types of content here. It could be videos, it could be labs, activities, it could be assessments, it could be documentation, it could be linked to external resources. Hey, we are doing an installation of Active Directory. Go read this white paper from Microsoft. So you really have an option here to share a lot of information. And this information can actually be shared in 2 different ways. Who are we sharing it with? Are we sharing it just with the students, or is it information for instructors? We start putting in more and more information in our courses that is for the instructors only. So when the instructor logs on, they access the course. They'll actually see additional pieces of activity that's really only meant for them. Instructor notes, instructor tip and tricks, instructor preparation videos, whatever it might be.
So there's a lot of flexibility for the instructor to basically disseminate the information that they need the student to learn.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we really want the instructors just to have to go to one place. Make it as easy, as efficient as possible.
Gotcha.
Where am I going? What, is it located on GitHub? Is it located on the MCT download site?
Okay.
If we have the links for that, we can put that into these courses. So just to make it easier for students to find it. The other thing I actually wanted to point out is a couple of other features here, because this is a virtual classroom. It is actually configured for Adobe. Now, the live delivery is, what we actually see here is the test. So looks like she hasn't done the test yet. She can actually launch the class. So that is actually the live delivery that is taking place, and it's now going into the Adobe Connect in this place. We have mentoring services. So when we are doing a lot of particular on-demand content, people are sitting at their own computer at their own time consuming all of this content. They have questions. So this case here, we are actually integrated into a mentoring service so they can connect, in this case, for this classroom here. They can actually ask questions of technical experts who is able to help them. So some customers are using this type of feature as well. It's not something that's enabled by default, neither one of them, because it does require an Adobe subscription for the Adobe Classrooms. It requires subscriptions for the mentoring services. But again, it's options that are available. We want to make this as easy as possible for students to consume that content and get the help they need. Also, I mentioned with the Adobe Classrooms that the virtual recordings are actually available. And we have up here in the top, there is actually recordings. Now, I scheduled this class here. We created it. We haven't really been running any classes, so nothing has been recorded yet. But this is actually where we would find the recordings. So when the student returns to this page, whether it's a week later, a month, or 3 months later, they'll actually be able to go in and consume that content again, run through the labs again. So really lots of great features there. One other thing that I'm really excited about is this type of on-demand subscription. So students want to consume more and more content on demand. I just want to go in, get a list of all the content that's available. I can go consume it at my own time. And what we actually have is this on-demand type subscription. So again, it's something that customers can actually offer to our organizations can actually offer through their customers. So if you're a training organization, you have a lot of on-demand content, whether it's videos, labs, whatever it might be. That can actually be put into one of these on-demand catalogs. Now, I very quickly put this together, and as I was putting it together, I did mess up a little bit of my filtering, but it really just shows how customizable it is. One of my filters over here is called products, which really means that I could go in and select. I want to see everything related to a particular product. In this case here, there's a mix of content. I want to see anything that is Microsoft official curriculum. And you'll notice what showed up as features before is now gone because that wasn't a mock course. I want to see anything that has to do with server infrastructure. And again, it's drilling down into those. I didn't mean for my Assure to actually show up as a product, but somehow I created another menu. But we could have different filters here. For one other organization right now, they want to show whether it's a video, it's a full-length course, or it's just like a short hands-on lab. Again, that could be a filter. I want to see all the videos, or I want to see all the courses. And from in here, students really just access it, and they consume all the content. So this is kind of this new look and feel as well, depending on how it's set up. You know, we can go in, we can launch the labs from in here. Now, Karen is only allowed to launch one lab, so I already have her lab running in the background. So again, they can do the connectivity check from in here. There's help in here. They can go back to the catalog. So there's really a lot of different ways to use this in. There's of course text filtering as well. So by tagging the courses with all of these different, when we're building the course, we can now go in and tag, this is a SharePoint course, or then those tags will actually carry over to these filters here. Okay. So really an excellent way for students to get access. And it's something that we are continuously improving on, because as we start using it, we want to see more features in this platform. The featured one, and it is a really blank screen here. The featured one is just showing us something we want to move to the top of the list. It will actually also show new courses that are added, so how we get these new courses added to the platform as well. So if something is new, it will actually show up as new in the upper right corner as well.
So how do we get this new theme or look or feel? That's one of the guests are asking. So the best way to do that is to contact our operations. So simply send us an email. And then, so you can just send support at Learn On Demand Systems an email, tell us who you are. They will then forward it to the proper team, and then we'll work with you in setting it up. There is some configuration that needs to be done in cases like this. Just to get the right look and feel, the logos, et cetera, configured. But that's something that, yeah, we will be working with you on. So So yeah, so Karen, of course, has access in this case to course assignments, to on-demand labs. She has the courses. There would also be a transcript of previous courses that she has attended. What lab is she currently running in the system? I want to log on and actually look at it a little bit from the instructor point of view. So I'm going to sign out here. I'm going to go and log on as instructor. And I need to type his password right. There we go. So you can see that the options in here have changed. You know, there's not the option to create classes or create custom fields because an instructor doesn't do that. Now, we could give the instructor the permission, but that's not really what the instructor is normally doing. The instructor does have My Calendar. And in here, you can actually see classes that the instructor is scheduling. It looks like the person is teaching a class right here. So we can go into to that class. Couple of options here that the instructor has. There's a roster, there's pre-class checklist, attendance charts, manage files. They can share files with the students, so we have the option to upload files that can be shared. If anybody is actually running in labs in this class right now, they would actually be able to see those classes. There's no students in this class running at this moment. So everything is located in here. Find access times as well. That's normally not one that instructors would actually be using, but the recordings would be in here as well. So they do have the option to go in and monitor student labs. So when a student is lunching, they can actually see what the students are doing in the lab. They can interact with that student during the platform. So again, when we're doing these virtual deliveries, that's a really useful platform to have. See everything that the students are actually doing at that point.
Do they have the option, does that instructor have the option to take control of that student's session or instance?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they can do that. So they are able to interact with that student. I'm gonna go into this class here, and I'm actually just gonna Karen is enrolled in this class. So I must have launched the wrong class from Karen because Karen is enrolled in this class. But she must have been, I must have launched the lab from a different class that she's actually enrolled in. But yeah, we would be able to monitor all of that information. When it's active and he's running the labs, then yeah, of course the instructor also have the option to go in and look at all the content themselves. So they can go in, launch the class, see the content as well. So instructors will always have access to that. Monitoring labs, this is a little bit weird, but I'm monitoring my own lab right now. So this is some of the things that we can actually see. What lab is the person doing? What series is it in? Has it been running? Completion status? What machine are they currently running inside the VM? How are they connecting to it? And then how much time have they actually been spending, etc. And then we have this monitor here where they can actually go connect and see what the student is doing. So you can see I'm seeing what the student is doing right now. I have the option to take control of the student as well. So all of those features are available within the platform itself. So really great features for when instructors are doing those types of virtual deliveries. So as you can see, there's lots of features for the students as well. The one thing I didn't point out, and I'm actually just going to go back because I saw there was a question at one point about the training keys. I'm going to go back and actually just log on as Karen again. So let me just switch over to my student here. And I just want to show, because if we were using training keys, the student could be logging on, and up here we actually have redeem a training key. And that would actually put her into the class that we just created. So had I written down that key or copied it over, I could have copied it over here, we would now have been enrolled in that class. So instead of manually enrolling the students in the class, they can self-enroll with those keys. Normally, the instructor would be sharing those keys in class.
Right.
So there can be a shared key, there can be unique keys per student. So there's lots of different options around those keys. So a great way of actually handling that. I did mention a little bit about notifications. So one of the things that we are actually seeing is that more and more people want email notifications to go out. There's a lot of people that go in and schedule classes, then they manually type out emails in another system, send it out. But there is something that we can configure. Now, it's not something that Oscar has permission to configure because there's a lot of different things happening in the background. So I'm actually just going to go log on to my other instance here with my username, and I just want to show some of those features if I can remember my password. Here we go. And for notifications, you notice those custom fields that I was creating. So if I go in here and I want to create a notification for class scheduled, I actually have the option to, first of all, add a trigger. So is it when the class is scheduled, created, updated, users are enrolled, time was changing? I want to send out an email notification when this time or the date suddenly changes of a class. That way the instructor is notified. Or if a class is canceled, let's send the instructor an email so they're notified. I'm just going to go in and say the class is created by the user is creating the class. But this is actually where we have these custom fields. So I had my class creator there, so a class coordinator, and I actually have the option to say, hey, I want to send them an email. So I'm scheduling a class, they're the coordinator for the class.
Right.
So now they're getting an email saying, hey, you have things to do. I just scheduled this class, now go coordinate whatever it needs to be. So we have the option to do that. These notifications can be really advanced notifications, so you can brand the emails with your logos, etc. You can insert different fields in it. So you have the option to insert replacement text as well. So it takes that out of the classroom as well. So lots of notifications can happen at that case. And of course, we can track where the notification's sent. So we know the system sent it. Of course, we don't know if the user opened the email or what they did to it, but at least we have the option to track what is being sent out, when is it being sent out. Is it being sent out a week before the class, or when it's happening? Are you sending out a reminder 3 days before the class? Maybe we want to send a reminder to the students. Remember to bring your laptop into class, or whatever it might be.
Right.
So there's really a lot of great options there. And yeah, the on-demand catalog, as we talked about, put in content there, whether it's videos, it's labs, anything like that. So it can include a lot of things. Those on-demand courses, videos. We do have some video integrations in there as well. So you might have videos that are located in Azure or somewhere else. We have the option to do that. It could be your performance-based testing. So our assessments in there. We want to figure out whether users are actually ready for this course, or we might quiz them in the beginning of a course and then at the end of the course, and we can start looking at the differences. Performance-based testing could be put in here, evaluations, etc. So there's a lot of different types of content modalities that can actually be put into this platform. And as I talked about when we were looking at Karen's account there, for Karen, in this case, she does have those virtual classroom recordings because it was being done through Adobe Connect. Traditionally in a course, we have virtual labs, but we do have an option to put a lot of other things in there, whether it's assessments, it's videos, it's documentation, it's external links. And very soon, we are actually going to be putting in the SkillPipe course materials. So SkillPipe is where CPLSs go by the Microsoft official curriculum. So it's the digital material that students can consume. And very soon we'll actually be able to see that in the platform as well. So it's one stop. They schedule a class, they're able to go see that SkillPipe course materials. So again, trying to make it as easy as possible, not just for the students, but also for the instructor who is actually delivering that content. The student lab experience, not going to spend too much time on that. We've had a lot of different sessions talking about the student lab experience, but it has been changed. It is constantly updating and evolving. We are adding more features. We have, and do I still have one of my labs running here? We still have the lab with the videos. So they're adding the introduction videos could be one thing. So particular for on-demand content, you know, we want to put in that small introduction video. Hey, thank you for taking this lab. You're going to learn ABC. You know, we have the overview of the lab itself, talking about the content. And then we start having all the different tasks here. And my screen was resized so it would actually fit for our broadcast here. But you can see in the bottom here, we have all the tasks. We have the detailed steps. And as I'm clicking done, it is actually going through each one of those steps. And you can see how the steps are changing. I got to a step, that's a video. So suddenly there is actually a video. There is also the pop-up notification. We have, going to the next one, it's now showing the demonstration. So this is actually a recorded demonstration that's now playing within. So we have information down in the bottom. So all the alert windows. It could be knowledge-based articles. It could be a screenshot of something. So there's really a lot of great options in all of the in all these features here. There's a small video down there, so it doesn't take up the whole screen. But maybe I'm trying to do something inside the lab, and I'm not quite sure how to do it. And if there's a video recorded, we can show that at the same time. And the other thing that it's doing here, it's actually keeping track of whether I'm completing the lab or not. So over in the lower right corner, you can see I've done task 6 of 15. So that's actually something that we are tracking as well. Are people actually doing 100% of the labs, or are they only doing 50% of it? Why is everybody stopping at that particular task? In the more traditional, old-fashioned labs, I'm calling them, where we have a virtual machine and you could have the lab manual outside of the platform. Yeah, we can see that somebody was running that lab for 45 minutes. But I really don't know how far did they actually get through the lab. Did they complete it? So here we are simply just tracking everything as it's going through everything. And there's a lot more options in here in what we can actually do. So there's a lot of options in the platform, and of course it's tracking how much time the students has left as well. So we have the exercise pane over on the right. We have the detailed task steps. We have the inline videos, and we have the various types of icons for alerts, for knowledge, for screenshots. So great features there that we see is being used more and more in our platform. And the instructor tool we already looked at. There's a lot of features in there we didn't get time to cover. Rosters, pre-class checklists, sign-in sheets, attendance charts. But all of that is managed and tracked through the platform as well. So we can have a sign-in sheet that we can actually use to track everything. Or if there's any pre-class checklist or things that we need to track, we have the option as doing that as well. Monitoring labs, as we talked about, great feature for virtual classrooms. The one thing I will say is I've seen a couple of times where people are scheduling classes and then they end up putting the instructor in as a student. We really want to make sure that instructor is listed as the instructor. That's what gives them the capability to monitor the students, to interact with those students. So the other thing that we've had a lot of great sessions on recorded is our Lab on Demand platform. So what we've been spending the time up until now is really the TMS, our training management platform that's used for all of these different types of deliveries. But what we actually have as well is our Lab on Demand platform that is actually used to actually create all of this content. I just showed you that lab with all the steps in, the videos. If we want to create that, well, that's what the Lab on Demand platform is for. So that's actually where we are creating a lot of the virtual machines, the lab profiles, all the different steps. Both platforms has a lot of great APIs in it that can be used to interact with, so we can actually launch labs remotely if we want to build it into our website.
Right.
Other training systems as well, so lots of options. And you, Victor, you use the Lab on Demand platform
Yes.
a lot because that's really where you're spending most of your time in just managing all of this content.
And the way I understand how the TMS system and also the Lab on Demand system, how they're integrated, I look at it more as LMS being the front-facing portal for the instructors and students, and Lab on Demand being the back-end portal for the lab developers and those that provide the content for those labs.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
So that is absolutely true. So the TMS is the front end. That's where students go. That's where they see it. The Lab on Demand is where the labs are essentially hosted, developed. That's where they're hosted. That's where they're running. So yeah, absolutely right. So lab developers does have access to this as well. So as an organization, you can actually get lab developer accounts and you can go start creating and building your own labs, whether it's a single lab, whether you want to build an exam. So we do have performance-based testing capabilities as well. So we can actually go in and create those type of tests. I want you to go do something, and then at the end of it, we actually score whether it's done right. So there's really a lot of options in how we can build that digital content today and deliver it to the customer. So that was really it. I know we are almost out of time here, but I really hope that you got something out of this session. We could probably have continued a few more hours just talking about all of these different features, but I really just wanted to give you an overview of what it is that we are actually looking at and all these new features we have. And we continue to add a lot of new features. So if any of you have any questions, feel free to actually type in those questions. We're gonna stick around here for a few more minutes to answer any of those questions. But also please reach out to our team. Support at Learn On Demand Systems is always the easiest way to reach out to us. That way it gets routed to the right people, and we'll make sure that you get the responses that you need. So yeah, hope you've had a great time here, learning something new, something useful. So we'll hang around for a few more minutes in case there are any questions at all. See if there are any questions.
Thank you, Phyllis, for answering some of those questions.
Yes, I see that Phyllis has been doing a great job answering questions as they were coming in.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, we are going to finish the session here. Do let us know if you have any questions. Thank you for joining in.